We'll record now, so don't say nothing you don't want your mama to hear.
I think she'll be all right. She's from Oakland, like us.
Okay. Well, come on, speak on it then.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks so much for meeting with me.
Mm-hmm.
I really just wanted to talk about your ambassador program because I checked out the video, the program video, the ambassador program video that you have on your webpage, on your website, and all over your Instagram too. And I really enjoyed it. Enjoyed it. Yeah. Like the little free 30-minute video.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Okay, cool.
So I wanted to talk, because me being a woman, sometimes we could be a bit fragile and emotional.
Okay.
And so I just had some questions about, I suppose, just the content, just the program overall. And obviously it's going to be some conversation going on about it. But I am interested, let me back up. What got you started in the EI program?
Oh, about 10 years ago, I was working at the probation department, and I was the compliance and standards supervisor. So I was part of a training where there was this federal regulation that was coming out for detention facilities. So we were in this training. In the training, the guy introduced Temperament Theory, which is a personality styles, and emotional intelligence. And he was introducing it before he got to the hardcore stuff, because as a compliance person, or people who are holding authority over people who hold authority, right? He knew that you were going to need some additional skills. Mm-hmm. Me, somebody who had been to tons of trainings, and my personality style is one where I quickly start to calculate what this is about. And once I can identify what it's about, I'm ready to move on. So it takes a lot to hold my attention in a training forum. But with the temperament theory, he totally held my attention. And when I heard the words emotional intelligence, it was very interesting to me. I had never heard it before. I'm like, emotional intelligence? I'm like, that's dope. I start asking people, have you heard of emotional intelligence? And because I had a wide range of people, from the streets to the courtroom to the corporate office, I could ask a variety of people, and everybody pretty much was like, nah, I hadn't heard of it. But those who heard of it couldn't fully explain it. So I knew that it was something, that I did my research on it, and it had a history already, but people didn't really know about it. So then my entrepreneurial brain started kicking in about an opportunity here, because I was already a trainer. I was already kind of a coach within the department, and this was something I felt would be very useful.
I love it. I love it because it's so important. Like, they don't teach this stuff in school, and I really feel like they should. But I also feel like, and this is totally a caveat, I also feel like the powers that be, don't want people to be emotionally intelligent, because they can capitalize off of our lack of knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Like with all the holidays and like Valentine's Day and like single womanhood and just wanting to feel like belonging. I feel like, and I know that's like really, really broad, right? But it's like you break it down to small, simple steps. And I really, really enjoyed just, you call it the EI domains, and you get 4 domains. And the first domain is self-awareness. So a lot of us deal with some of us deal with like depression, anxiety, and, you know, so just knowing like where we stand could help. Knowing where, like, as a woman, what time of the month is it? Like, are we overwhelmed, like, because of hormones? Like, all that stuff I feel like it's so many moving parts all the time.
Right.
Just being a person,
Yes.
I feel like your program really breaks it down and helps us to just focus in on one aspect of ourselves. Does that make sense?
That's exactly why I do it. It makes absolute sense. I mean, it does, because with so much background noise on a day-to-day, we get away from ourselves. We don't pay attention to ourselves, and we are, and to your point, being governed by our emotions. And to your point as well, we, no one in school, said, listen, as you move along, things are going to happen and you are not going to like it. Be mindful how you respond to the things that you don't like. There are going to things that are going to happen that you're going to disagree with. Be mindful on how you respond to the things you disagree with. In fact, we're taught the totally opposite, right? We're raised from the lens of good and bad, right and wrong, right? And so don't do this, do that. If you do it this way, I'm going to punish you, or I'm going to give you a consequence because I said don't do that. That's wrong. Your grades are not good. You come with a C, that's not good. Could have been the best that you could do, but that's not good. You must have an A or B. So what happens is that it's a cold game too. You just, by attrition, right, you just evolve into this adult human being. But the passage, right, or the rites of passage did not cover that old belief system that was impressed upon you might not work too well on this other side. So that's why we see people with these adult temper tantrums. I don't like you, right? So my next thing to do is to punish you. Let me talk about you. Let me hate on you. Let me block you. Let me do all these things to make you feel a certain kind of way because I was taught that's what I need to do. And so with emotional intelligence, it's exactly how it sounds, right? It's like emotions. Be honest about how you feel, and then the intelligence. But what do? Be smart about what you do with it. And it's such a subtle but powerful thing that it just took over my spirit. I was like, I have to be the person for everyone that I know to get this message out. And it was so powerful that it made me just forget about the path I was on, right? Yeah. From being an ex-felon to a peace officer and working with the youth and doing all that kind of stuff like that. I thought that was the end of I thought that was the story, right? Like to have that, that transformation and transcending piece of my life. I thought that was going to be it. And then this came and it was like, oh no, I'm just beginning. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I left the job. I was like, I know why the caged bird sings. You know what I mean? I needed to get out, spread my wings. And every time someone would thank me or acknowledge that the way I shared it with them gave them a new perspective, then I knew I was doing the work that needed to be done. And so ain't no stopping now.
It's like the light bulb went on in their mind. You could see it. That is very powerful. So I had a question about, okay, so the 4 domains that you talk about are self-awareness is the first, managing your reactions, situational awareness, which I thought was incredible, and then relationship management. And so I had a question about managing your reactions, the second domain, the second EI domain. I got questions for you. I did my homework.
Come on. I'm here for it all.
So it says, how do you feel the feeling and watch how you respond to your emotions? You talk about feeling the feeling and watching how you respond to your emotions. As a woman, if I'm not in a good space, if I have a lot of pressure piled on me and I'm trying to keep my emotions away, like sometimes they can like sneak up on me all of a sudden. And I'm just like going off, like, do you find that happening with a lot of folks, or like, what do you think about that? How do you feel the feeling and watch how you respond to your emotions?
Excellent question. So that statement is, number one, it's a qualifying statement to say nobody can tell you how to feel.
Okay.
All right. It's my way of clarifying that emotional intelligence is not this warm and fuzzy lifestyle, right? This is not about being happy all the time. If you're mad, be mad, right?
Yeah.
If you're depressed, be depressed, right? The key is don't stay there. The key is to be careful what you're doing while you're in that state. And I think that's huge, because a lot of times if you tell somebody that something's going on with you, the first thing we say is you're going to be all right. Well, maybe, but right now I'm not all right. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me sit in this for a second. I need to feel this, right? If I make a mistake, financially, right? I need to be broke for a minute. You know what I'm saying? But it don't mean I need to go rob a bank to bounce back, right? I might feel like it, or it doesn't mean I go run my car off the freeway because I feel like, I'm disappointed or, whatever. It just means that I need to marinate in the lesson, because I'm responsible for how I act, no matter how I feel, right? So these are just codes that I create for people to help govern the way they process life. See, the secret to all this is to be able to process life. So it's just like the big news today, right? And the trial. People are on edge.
The George Floyd trial?
Yes.
To clarify? Okay.
Right. The Derek Chauvin trial, George Floyd.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I heard somebody else say that. It was an aha thing. I was like, I know. You keep saying George Floyd, he ain't on trial. Right? But people are ready to move and mobilize either way. Right? But that's all emotional. Logically, none of that's going to change anything. Whether the verdict is guilty or innocent, George Floyd is no longer here. And it might feel good for a second, right? It's some type of victory, but that man's mama or grandma they're never getting their son, uncle, dad back, right? So logically, what are we really celebrating, right? But emotionally, it's a big celebration because of all the reasons people feel a certain kind of way. There's not a right or wrong, right? That's not what we're talking about. But we're talking about it. But if you take those emotions from a victory or a loss and you go out and burn up, blow up, shoot up, smack, slap, post heck of crazy stuff on your social media as a result, you're not being intelligent about how you actually feel, right? You're actually overreacting, right, to a situation. So that's a big one because it's today's topic. But on a day-to-day engagement, because if you're human, right, which so far we all are, you're gonna run into people. You have to at some point engage with people. And if you got to engage with another human, there's gonna be a chance that you ain't gonna see eye to eye. Things not gonna always align. Why? Because everybody is wired differently, right? We're having a great conversation now, but if we talk long enough, if we hang out long enough, I'm bound to say something you don't like. I'm bound to do something that you like, right? I can't tell you how to feel, but if you turn around and cuss me out behind that, now you didn't change the whole trajectory of what we could have been, because now I feel a certain kind of way. And that's just how fast it happened. Now we could have went on to do beautiful things together, right? We could have did a ton of work, changed heck of lives, But because I said something that I am just being me, but it bucks up against one of your beliefs, one of your values, one of your past life experiences, and because you were taught to respond a certain kind of way, you clap back, right? Or you disconnect, whichever your conditioned response is, and we miss an opportunity, relationship management, hence relationship management, to manifest a relationship that could be beneficial to not just you and I, but to everybody who can benefit from us being connected, right? And so to me, this is why this is important, to never let your emotions overpower your intelligence. To me, that's the mission statement. My job is to pick enough interests and give you enough tangible tools that you minimize the chance to let your emotions overpower your intelligence. Because when you do that, the game starts to change. I could think you super cool until I hear you lose your temper, say something, and now I'm kind of like, I don't know if I could. No, you know what I mean? Even though you're not supposed to judge too quickly, which is another strategy that we talk about. So I am not even sure what the question was, but I know it was a long answer to a short question.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
I'll be on one, so you know.
No, it's all of it is good. You talk about situational awareness. That's the third domain. And you talk about give space to the situation when the energy or emotions are high. What if we just don't have that space to give? What if we're in the moment? We have to, address it right then. What if we're in a leadership position, or, we're a single mom or something like that, and we have to we got to get to it right then and there. We can't wait for it to pass. What do you do?
That's your belief that you can't wait. You can always wait. You can always put some space in between your response. You can always acknowledge. Let's give me a second, right? Let's take a moment. Let's take a 5-minute break if I'm in a meeting. Let's take a 5-minute break, and we'll come back here at 10:05, right? Especially if you're a leader, right? You a parent, right? Yeah, you're always in charge of your own thing. You and I could be having a difficult conversation, and my emotions could raise up, and I can say, can you give me 1 second? I'll be right back. And then dish them off the camera, right?
Okay, no.
Go do my thing, right? And then come back. We still gonna do what we're doing, but in the effort is to increase the chances that we have a positive outcome, even if it comes in negative, right? Okay. So I'm not sure if I shared that emotional equation formula in that video. S plus yes. R equal, right? So yes. That equation, understanding that situations plus our response is directly related to the outcome that you're going to receive. The variable is more than likely how our response for situational awareness help. Should I engage, or should I give this some space? That's all situational awareness is, right? If I should engage, then it's a good vibe, it's good energy, keep going. We could be right in the middle of a conversation and the energy can shift while we're talking. Situational awareness, because I'm mindful that this is a thing, it exists, so I'm paying attention to your energy. If you've been smiling for 25 minutes, but you ain't smiled in 7 minutes, maybe something changed, right? If you nodding your head now and then you stop, right? I say something and you take off, you're like, wait a minute, right? If I peek that there's been a shift in energy, I need to assess. And sometimes, depending on the relationship, I can ask the question. I can say, Tony, I want to make sure we good. it seems like when I said this, that happened. We on the same page? And you be like, I'm so glad you said something because blah, 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 blah. And then now we're talking as opposed to moving on assumption. So this whole thing with this EI, it's like, to me, if you get this down, then everything else is gravy. You know what I'm saying? You're going to vibrate on what we call that higher frequency. You know what I mean? Because you're going to be able to reclaim your personal freedom, because you can literally be unbothered for any extended period of time, because you understand how to process things. That's just the bottom line. When it comes in hot, right? How do I process this? Whether it's death, whether it's change of job. Because see, like I tell people whenever I'm having conversations, as you can imagine, I have a wide range of conversations. When it comes to death, you're very emotional, but logically, you know we're all going to die. Like, that's facts. Like, there is no argument about that. And it's also factual that you don't know when.
Yeah.
Right? This is not a fairy tale. We're not going to live to 129 years old and one day we're on the bed and everybody you know is standing around and you get to tell everybody you love them, and then you go, it's not going to happen like that. Right? Yeah. You're going to get your soul snatched on a fluke. You know what I'm saying? Right? You know what I'm saying? That's why they call it the Grim Reaper, like he coming to snatch you, right? And you not gonna know when. So we be shocked, understandably. But the people who do not accept, people who don't accept that this is real, torture themselves the longest. Whether it's my son, my wife, my kid, my dog. Of course I feel it in my pit of my stomach and pierces my heart. But the sooner I can accept that it was inevitable, then the quicker I can move forward. But see, people associate that with like, get over it. We're not talking about getting over anything. That's not what we're saying. We're saying you gotta realize that if you stay here and you let depression weigh you down, you stop being productive, you stop doing things. Like, life is not going to stop and wait for you, right? If you had a job, okay, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3, but you start not coming back to work, somebody's gonna call you and be like, T, look, we love you and everything, but you can reapply, right? When you get your shit together. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how life is. One day you'll be at the table, the next day you'll be on the menu. That's just life. I'm making light of it, but what am I saying here? The ability to process the things that come at you. So when we get up every day, this mindset, this mantra, this coded way of living of emotional intelligence is when we say, put your EI glasses on, right? In theory, means that you understand that whatever happens today, emotionally, I need to respond to it through a logical lens. Why do I do that? Because I want to increase the chances of it landing on a positive outcome. Why would I want to do that? Because I want to live and optimize my life. I want to experience life to the fullest every day. So I'm going to do some things for me, right? Doesn't matter what they did. That's on them. If they hella mad for no reason, that's on them. My job is to pay attention. Oh, you ain't ready, right? If you acting up about that, ain't no sense in me trying to talk to you, right? I was on a plane coming back from vacation. It was some youngsters on the plane. These two youngsters, they couldn't be no more than my daughter's age. Couldn't be no more than 30, right? They decided they gonna listen to everything on their phone out loud. No headphones, right? And I was irritated, right? And I wanted to say something. But logically, I know, number one, if I tap in right now while they all, I'm going to catch that fade the minute I say something. Somebody going to look at me like, you know what I'm saying? Fuck you. Excuse my language. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, like, right? And then I might say, you got me fucked up, right? Or whatever. And when the plain people come, they putting everybody off. Because they ain't running no risk, right, of you going in the air acting a fool. I've been put off a plane before, right, for lack of emotional intelligence, not knowing about this. And so all I'm saying is situational awareness. Is this energy I should engage, or energy I should get some space to? When emotions are high, logic is low. Logically, we're going to be in the air soon, and that damn phone ain't going to even work anyway.
Yeah.
So let me go ahead. What I do have control over, let me put my headphones on, right? And let the other elements take care of it. But depending on what people believe about themselves, they feel like they got to say something. I got to check them. I got to do this. You can't be doing that. My wife's like that. She is somebody who, if she thinks there's any type of injustice or any type of you ain't supposed to do it, like she's the type of person who feel like she needs to say something. And I have to be like, babe, you know what I'm saying? Like, and she be looking at me like a pit bull. I'll be like, listen, just stop. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, but that's just like, so, you know, situational awareness is very important in terms of you can minimize a lot of things that you probably don't have to even participate in if you practice situational awareness.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking about your plane situation, and I'm thinking about, remember the TV show Boondocks? And they had a skit like keeping it real when keeping it real goes wrong. Or was it that one, or was it Dave Chappelle? Dave Chappelle. It was Dave Chappelle, and it was funny. So I'm thinking about
when keeping it real goes wrong. That's exactly it. As a matter of fact, thank you. I might need to. I might use that as a skit for my EI.
You should totally use it as a skit.
You make it number.
So funny. Okay, so how does social media affect people's emotional intelligence levels, if it does at all?
That's kind of a open-ended question. I think all content consumption plays a part in people's emotional intelligence, and the person who's watching the trial all day today and following the riots and watching every news and commentating, right? They're getting themselves emotionally charged and drained, right? I'm somebody, I'm not watching all that. I heard he was guilty. That's fine. I don't need to know anything else. I got my real life right here to lead, right? I think social media allows people really to look out the window more than they look in the mirror, you know, because it's a good place to watch what everybody else is doing, so you don't have to pay attention to yourself. And so I think I think if I have to summarize that, it's an emotional distraction. Emotional distraction, yeah.
So back to the mirror exercise. I mean, I was emotionally intelligent. I'm still working on it, but I was literally emotionally intelligent when I remember being 21 and looking in the mirror and saying, where do you want to be 5 years from now? And if it's not in this, you know, funky ass relationship, then don't be here right now. And I remember telling myself that. And so I always tell people, like, go look in the mirror, and people, they be all scared and skittish. And I'm like, why? Why?
Because it's hard to look at yourself. It's hard to slow down because, again, you've been spending your whole life looking out the window. You've seen your whole life capping on people, talking about your shoes, your hair, what you got, what I don't got, what this person is doing. So looking at yourself is a lot of times unfamiliar to people. And so cosmetically, right, superficially we look at ourselves, I make sure my head is shaved, my beard, make sure your makeup is on, and whatever it is that makes you feel good on the outside. But like I say, take a moment and look in your eyes, you know, and look at yourself and start to envision who is actually showing up. How is the world? How is your family? How is your friends seeing you? I learned in an exercise one time in doing some personal development work, they asked a very interesting question. And it was like, think about your family, right? Or think about, let's just say, your brothers and sisters, right? Or your parents. And it was like, have you ever considered what life must have been like for them being your brother, right? Or like my son, right? I got 5 kids, but just pick any one of them, right? I'm always, right, as a parent, just guiding them and coaching them and, right, telling them what I think they should do or whatever. But do we ever think about, like, what life must be like, you know, for my son to be in his room and to hear my footsteps come through the door and whatever I be barking at him and tell him to do, like, what does that feel like for him? Or me being his dad, being the EI guy, does that put any pressure on him to have to be cool when he don't want to be cool, right? I mean, there's things that we don't, or you know, status-wise, right? Where we live and how we move in. Does that make him feel like he got to be at this level, right? I have, you know, I got one son that's he a wild card, right? And I know that part of his issue is not being able to identify himself and constantly thinking he has to measure up. Matter of fact, all my kids at one point have said they feel like they had to measure up, even though I never said that, right? I felt like I never put that on them. But it ain't about what I feel or what I thought. This is what they are experiencing. And so back to looking at yourself, if you could take into consideration, like I remember when I was working at the probation department, so being a manager, you would do your rounds, so to speak. And for visual, there are 12 housing units and there's 3 staff in each housing unit with about 20 to 30 detainees, right? People who are locked up. So my job at this time was to go around and make rounds, make sure everybody is cool, kind of doing what doing what they're supposed to be doing, X, Y, and Z. So and it's crazy because the doors are automatic. They're handled by a central control area. So when you go down to the door, the people in the central control, they're watching everybody move. You get to the door, they open the door, that one closes behind you, it's like a sally port, and the other one open. So whenever that other door opened, it was like me coming on stage, like, and then I come in, I think I'm cool, right? I think I'm a laid back dude. I really ain't tripping off much, you know what I'm saying? But my staff used to be like, dude, like when you come in the room, like everybody be like, DB in the hallway, DB. Like I didn't notice for hella years, right? But like if I come down the hallway, they be like, they hit all the units and be like, DB in the hallway. It'd be like some Debo shit. And I'm like, I ain't even like, right? And they was like, you got a big presence and you don't even realize it. So everything you say and do. And I'm like, I think I'm being humble. I'm like, nah, like I'm not that. And I had to learn. It's not what I think, right? It's what people see. And so the belief tells you, I don't care what people think. But that ain't true. You absolutely care what people think. And when people think, it matters. It doesn't mean that you need to lose some sleep over it. It means you should take it under consideration. Why? Because people are your greatest resource. Yeah. Right? This is what we're doing. And so you want to be mindful of what you're doing. You don't have to change and be with other people, but you just want to take under consideration, right? How what you do have an impact and how it influences folks. That's vibing responsibly. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I have, and I feel like there's little
things that you can do to kind of convince yourself, if that makes sense, or if that's the right word, convince yourself to be emotionally intelligent. For me, when I walk into a room, I make sure I say hi to everybody. Mm-hmm. And that's just like putting my heart at peace and letting everybody know that, hey, I'm approachable if you need to talk, and, you know, and just to also acknowledge them. So to me, that's part of my emotional intelligence. And those are things that I do. I'm wondering, and this was not even an original question, but I love the conversation. It brings up more questions for me. Okay, I'll be a little controversial here. How important is lifestyle choice as it relates to EI? I'm talking about people who have like addiction, drug, alcohol addiction, or just that gangster lifestyle. Like, can you be emotionally intelligent in those arenas?
Yeah, you know, it's an excellent question, and this will help you as your thoughts continue to evolve. Emotional intelligence, from the way I've studied it, is how you handle any one of those things. It doesn't matter what you're involved in or engaged in. EI is how you go about handling it, managing it, processing it, allowing it to affect you. So if you use drugs, or you got multiple relationships, or you a gangster, whatever, you have to process the things that you are engaged in and the people that you have to engage with to do these things.
Yeah.
So EI helps you balance, right, and have some peace amongst whatever it is that you're doing. So that would be my answer to that, which would apply. So a lot of times, and I'm just going to try to get ahead of it a little bit, because a lot of times at the end of a corporate training session, when they start the Q&A, which I like to coin a group coaching session, because it's never just a question and answer. It's a, what about, you know, what about if you got a manager that, what if you got somebody, you know, that just don't want to do their job? They come to work every single, right? And so what, so what that tells me, what that signals to me, is that either a person has not accepted the emotional intelligence philosophy, is not aware of it, or doesn't know how to apply it. Because if you do, and it doesn't mean in its totality, it could be even in that question that you asked, because it's a universal principle that applies to whatever. So what I try to condition people to think, when the situation comes in front of you, start thinking about the tools that you need to apply to this situation, so that you are practicing or exercising emotional intelligence, right? And so to me, that's the better way to look at it. So it doesn't matter. Something right now could pop off while we're talking, right? So I have to make sure that I'm conscious of how I feel about whatever just happened, whatever just signaled, whatever just triggered. I'm responsible for how I act, no matter how I feel. Whether somebody comes banging on the door, my dog barking hella loud, my son, you know, yelling upstairs on the game. I told him I was on a call, but he up there jumping around, or whatever. I still have to be mindful of how I get up and go up there and address it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, and what I love about this, I got so many stories that I remember one morning, and this would drive any parent crazy. I told my son, don't lock this door. You don't get to lock this door, right? You preteen at the time. We not doing no locked doors around here. And this fool locked the door after I told him not to lock the door. So when I went to go wake him up in the morning,
dang,
right? And you know, when you do that first shake, you know that second shake is gonna be like, You know what I'm saying? And I'm ready to blow the door off the hinges. Why? Because my value system say, I told you to do something that's highly disrespectful when you don't do it, right? So then off with his head, right? Because that's what I seen my peoples do when I was younger, right? The story I tell myself, right? Oh, you want to close doors? How about not have no door? Boom! Right?
That's how I feel too.
Right? And that's how I felt. But do I actually do it? Right? Because if I blow the door off the hinges, who got to fix it? Right? He ain't gonna fix it, right? And then what traumatizing experience is that gonna be if he sleep and he wakes up to the door flying across the room, knocking him across his head? He may never get a good night's sleep again, right? And when he finally wakes up and he opens the door, I'm looking at him and I'm ready, and I start leaning in on him. Situational awareness, right? But then I realize, no matter how bothered I am, and no matter what he did, he just woke up. He cannot process what I'm telling him. He's on his feet. He appears to be present, but I know when I first wake up, like, you got to give me a second. You're like, the fog needs to clear. So I'm just saying, governing yourself by this thought process helps you in those moments when you need it the most. That's all.
Yes, I agree completely. Ooh. I don't know. I think we can go back and forth on that one, because but okay. This one, and you kind of answered it in the previous question, but I'm wondering, okay, what are your thoughts on EI and spirituality? Like, if you're spiritual religious, does it automatically make you emotionally intelligent? Okay.
No, hell no. You know, a bunch of ratchet religious and spiritual people. Hell no. So, I think it's a standalone, right, skill set, right, that's highly compatible with whatever else you got going on. Don't think there's the law of intentionality, right? And you know, the law of intentionality is, you know, people have the assumption, right, that things just go together or things are just going to be okay, but you have to intentionally apply pressure to your skills, to your lifestyle, to your beliefs in order for them to go. You know what I mean? And like, you know, and so I think you have to be very intentional about, which is reason why I created the EI Ambassador Program, right? That was my effort to the community to say, listen, hold yourself to a standard, right? And give yourself, I guess the easiest example or the most one is, if you work for a company, which you probably do, most people, there's a manual, there's an employee handbook, there are policies and procedures that you need to operate this place at a certain standard. But people don't have SOPs for themselves, so to speak, right? Standard operating procedure. So to me, emotional intelligence is giving you that standard operating procedure so that you can, I like to say, create a new system of living, right? That partners, pairs, aligns, whatever, you know, you want to say to whatever else you got going on. And I truly believe that you can have all the things that you just mentioned: spirituality, religion, high profession, money, all that stuff. But if your emotional intelligence is whack, if you cannot manage the way you process things, when it makes you feel a certain kind of way, your life is going to be full of a lot of turbulence.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't have any control over what happens, but I always have control on how I respond to what happens. Now, we're not striving for perfection, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're striving for progress. So this is not about being perfect. When I do lose it, right? When I do snap, right? When I do catch an attitude, my saving grace is emotional intelligence. I bounce back faster than the average bear because I quickly reverse engineer the play that I just ran, and I use it as an opportunity, right, to grow. So when I have incidents out in the world, whatever, whether it's my kids, my wife, my friend, my cousin, my business partner, whatever, if they are not flowing fluently, then I'm thankful for the opportunity to learn and grow from something and find out where that blind spot was at, right? So how did it catch me off guard? Why wasn't I the EI guy in that moment, right? So which one of these skills that I promised to everybody that if you use this, it would work, what did I miss, right? And I can usually identify, right, what I did not put into play. And that's why I got the results that I received.
They call it self-mastery, self-actualization.
Absolutely.
And it's something that everybody obviously should be striving for. Because it feels like I said before, and we're going to wrap this up, but it feels like there's always so many moving parts all the time. And then with, the pandemic, and then just like, okay, well, when is this pandemic going to end? They said it would end like last May, and we're still in it. It's like, how can people use emotional intelligence during this quarantine time? Well, I don't feel like we're quarantined anymore, but how can people use, we're definitely not, but as we transition back into reality, whatever that looks like, what's the new reality? Like, how do you use EI what advice would you give somebody who is anxious or uncertain about transitioning back into what new society would look like?
So, and as a disclaimer, like a financial person, my views and opinions expressed on this episode is solely those of DB Bedford, and not to hold your magazine accountable for my thought process. But respectfully, I'm going to say, so we talk about in this platform stress, when we talk about stress. And I believe that stress is activated when your expectations don't match reality. Meaning you're expecting something to happen, but it's not actually happening. And the next part to that, and you won't accept the fact that this is actually happening. So there's a difference between keeping it real and then keeping it reality, right? Keeping it real, or what you perceive as real, is your own thoughts, beliefs, values, whatever. It's real to you, and that's fine. Nobody can take that away from you. But reality is that thing that does not change whether you believe in it or not. So the pandemic is happening, whether you think it's a conspiracy, whether you think it's fake, whether this shit's happening, right? And it has people believing that they need to do X, Y, and Z. It will be over when the government says it's over, right? When the same way they came on and said, we got to wear a mask, you got to stay 6 feet or die, right? And millions of people said, well, that's what we got to do. You heard what they said, this we got to do, right? And then the other people was like, fuck you. I'm not doing that. And then everything in between. It will be over when they come back on and say the same thing, that we're good. And they're probably going to say we have herd immunity, right? There's enough people who are vaccinated now that you guys can go outside and play. And then people will be like, okay, we're cool now, depending on where you stand on it. My point is, whether it's pandemic, whether you have health issues, whether your money is low, whether you are weak when you feel like you should be strong, right? Or whatever. When your expectations don't match what is exactly happening, you're going to be stressed. And stress is the cousin to frustration, anxiety, depression. They all in the same gang. Stress just lead it. Will jump out like, what we doing? Right? And anxiety be like, yeah, what we doing? And if you don't accept the fact, right, that you have no control over situations, you only have control over how you respond to them. You go to the doctor, they say you got 9 months to live, then that's what you got, and we'll see what happens in 9 months. So you got cancer, say you got sugar, you got whatever. You got to accept that that is what actually happened and start making decisions based on what is actually happening, not the fact that you can't believe, you know what I'm saying, that you're the one, or why me, or wherever your mind goes. That's where an anxiety comes from, tripping off something that ain't happened yet, right? You done told yourself all these stories, and it's causing you fear, and right, it's messing with you because you like, what about, and but it ain't even happened. Yeah, it hasn't even, logically, it hasn't happened. But emotionally, and as much as you let yourself go down that path, it becomes harder to reel yourself back. Depression is kind of the same thing. This is not a clinical response, this is a DB response, right? But you start feeling heavy about something, and you don't want to let go of that feeling. And you don't see how to let go of that feeling, right? And it's raining, right? And the clouds are dark. Even though it's sunny in Australia, right? But you can't see that in the moment. It's like, it's raining, storming, and I'm gonna get all wet, and I'm not gonna be able to, my house is gonna flood, and I'm not gonna be able to, and you start, and it just, the monkey gets on a person's back, right? It takes a shift in energy. It takes a new perspective, right? To influence the person to take, perspective is got to be one of the most powerful things that any human could possess. I call it the emotional pivot, right? The ability to take a new position on the same situation. I call it emotional pivot because you ain't gonna feel like doing it, right? Yeah. That's why it's emotional. But if you could push through, right? Because the views are different from every angle. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could change the speaker view on this Zoom call and make us go up and down. I'm looking at it side by side. I can make us go up and down. I could take the thing off the camera, and what it will do, it will instantly create a new experience, right? If I turn them lights out, instantly new experience. And I never know, by shifting my energy, what can happen. Because one thing's for sure and two things for certain. Every day that we're up and we're breathing, the possibility is endless. Possibilities are endless. Anything can happen today, right? We're just one conversation, one engagement away from changing the whole trajectory, one idea away. And so when you keep your I don't want to say spirit, but your energy, your spirit, open in that space, I think you can minimize a lot of the stuff that we're talking about. And if it does catch you, you won't stay there for long, because you know that there is a model that you can apply these strategies to, or some strategies you could apply to the situation that you're in that can help you. It could be your guiding light, right? Yeah. To go ahead and give you an opportunity, or replace the old belief with a new belief in the moment, to take action so that you can move forward. Because slow motion is still motion.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like it's like a tool, like a internal compass. Like that's really what it feels like when you explain it like that. Because some people are atheists, some people don't believe in God at all, some people believe in Christianity, Buddhist, but yours is emotional intelligence feels like it doesn't exclude anybody. Do you know what I'm saying? It doesn't exclude like what race, what gender, what sexuality you are. Like none of that matters. Where you're from, none of it matters. It's just it's connecting your mind with your heart. That's what I hear, and that's what I feel when you talk about it. So with that being said, I want to thank you for interviewing, but I do want to know, where can people find you?
Good question. Social media is probably the easiest way to find me. Instagram, iNEVERWORRY on Instagram and on Facebook. And I have, and then my name, DB Bedford, on Facebook.